Friday's Quad Summit was historic in the sense that it was the first one with all four heads of government in attendance. In that sense, it represented a really significant step forward for the Quad, which has sort of historically had a somewhat unclear mandate and whose fortunes have waxed and waned through the years. It also represented a very significant deepening and broadening of cooperation compared to what we would have seen in the past, where the Quad was primarily focused on traditional security issues, primarily maritime security. So the announced pledge to produce 1 billion COVID-19 vaccines for Southeast Asia, for example, the creation of working groups on climate and on technology are a really significant step forward. But in that sense, this is unlikely, this sort of shift and this sort of kind of broadening away from security towards other areas of cooperation, something that's unlikely to assuage concerns in Beijing, because China primarily sees the Quad as an anti-China forum. And really, China is the glue that does hold the Quad together. And so even though the four leaders tried to downplay this China angle during the summit, for example, never referring to the country by name in the joint statement afterwards, it is nevertheless clear that this is sort of the unifying factor and that this will remain the unifying factor for the foreseeable future.
Miha, I want to get into the vaccine story a little bit further. This Quad vaccine partnership seems quite instrumental as we watch the vaccine nationalism story play out through the European lens at this point, but then concerns right here in Europe, particularly from the French President Emmanuel Macron, about the type of political capital the likes of Russia and China are trying to build in some parts of the world because of the access to vaccines. So how significant is it to have this type of partnership with a billion COVID-19 vaccine doses for Southeast Asian countries at this point? How instrumental is that in terms of a push back against China?
Well, in that sense, the two can't really be separated. It is entirely clear that this decision was done with an eye on China. China is pursuing very sweeping vaccine diplomacy across the globe, but particularly within the Asia Pacific. There are a lot of countries in the region that are not sort of in prime position to get their populations vaccinated. By current projections, for some countries, it could take years. And so clearly, this is also an attempt to increase really the soft power of the group, if you will. And we shouldn't really forget that the number of 1 billion vaccines is massive. But we shouldn't forget that the target date here is the end of 2022. So even with this is certainly a long-term pledge relative to the fact that there are some countries in the West that are almost on the cusp of potentially reaching herd immunity in the next few months. So in that sense, it is also a pledge that will need to be followed up by very substantial sort of operationalization. How do we now translate this very, very sort of sweeping pledge into actually getting vaccines produced, delivered, and into people's arms across Southeast Asia?